Hello there everybody, it is me XFreezerBunny and welcome back to part 5 of the Sims 4 Speed Building a Medieval Fantasy Castle. So in this part we're actually going to be starting work on a couple of my favorite areas of the castle, namely the kitchen area as well as the flower garden and the herb and vegetable garden. Also, we're going to be filling up the moat surrounding the castle, and we're going to be unleashing some actual crocodiles as well in the moat. So since this is the final part of this 5-part speed build, I do have some talking points that I want to talk about in particular, though if you guys follow me on social media, you would already know that this is not my first attempt at recording this commentary. This build was supposed to come up the same time as usual, but to be honest, I just wasn't happy with my original commentary, so I decided to kind of re-record it because I didn't get to talk about some certain things that I would have really liked to talk about. Also, apologies if you guys can hear all of that traffic noise. Typically, I schedule my commentary recordings for when there's minimal traffic outside my apartment and the train isn't running, but unfortunately that's not the case because this is a little bit more of a spontaneous recording session because I honestly wasn't happy. I just wasn't really happy with my first recording attempt, so I kind of just made the tough decision to re-record it because I know I can do a better job at actually explaining the whole thing and pretty much summing it up as well, because I feel like that's something that I didn't do in the first recording. But for the kitchen area, we actually edited the building where the kitchen is located. Like, I put some buttresses outside, which I actually really enjoy. I thought that the buttresses looked so good that I actually incorporated them in other parts of the build as well. But the kitchen, let me just tell you guys, is fully functional. Your sim will be able to cook in this place and they will be able to cook meals for themselves as well as their servants. But my idea for the kitchen is that I wanted it to be a place for the servants to hang out as well as a place to prepare really grand banquets. So the kitchen has a working stove in the form of the corner fireplace, which is a very large item, and then it also has a barbecue, which is in the form of kind of like a rock kind of like oven thing. To the left, you guys can see it right there under the windows, and then there are some decorative fireplaces, and then the fridges are actually pantries, those two boxy things to the right of the screen right there. And yeah, the only thing that's really missing in the kitchen in order for it to work seamlessly is actually some kitchen counters. I tried putting some, but they just didn't really look good. I couldn't find some medieval looking counters, so I kind of just put like a table in the middle, and I think that that's where I'd like to imagine the servants would prepare the food for the lord and the lady and stuff like that. But nevertheless, the sim will be able to cook some grilled stuff because there is a barbecue in this room. So if you guys really want to make this a fully functional, fully fledged kitchen, you might want to add a couple of counter spaces. One of you guys did tell me that you were gonna move in like a modern day sim here, so maybe you can renovate it into like something more contemporary. But I'm putting in some stools because I wanted it to have this effect where servants would actually use the place. If they're not cooking, they could congregate in that particular area. And then right now we are working on kind of like the guardhouse area. I put 2 cots here. They're not beds, which is why I didn't count this as a separate bedroom, because the cots that I used are actually sofas. But I put a pair of cots because I wanted to make sure that the castle was fully guarded from invaders or intruders. And then they also have their own toilet as well in the form of a wash basin and piss pot. I couldn't think of what it's actually called. A chamber pot, there we go. That's the more acceptable term to call it, I guess. But I do have a couple of talking points that I'd like to talk about in this build. So while we're furnishing this area, the first thing that I want to talk about is actually the house tour video. So at the very beginning of the speed build series, I asked you guys to chime in on whether you wanted to have a separate house tour video or if you wanted it to be included in this final part. Now obviously it's not included in this final part because even though it was pretty close, more people preferred the separate video altogether, and I actually kind of agree because I feel like for incredibly long extended speed builds that are over like 3 parts, I think that it's a good thing to have a completely separate house tour video. But I think that I'm still gonna keep the house tour video on the last part for 2-part speed builds, so that's a thing that I have to remember. But another thing that I want to talk about is actually the custom content. I feel like I've already talked about this in other parts, but a lot of people were trying to let me know that most of the custom content items I used are conversions from The Sims Medieval, and I know this, you guys. You don't need to tell me. I was completely aware of this. I was actively seeking out medieval conversions. I haven't played medieval myself, which I know as a long-term simmer is very sacrilegious, but I did actively seek out medieval conversions because I thought that they were just easier and more cohesive to look at in the game. But I feel like some people missed the parts where I was talking about it in other videos, so I just want to bring that up. And finally, a lot of you guys really enjoyed the candlelit effect on the bedrooms, so we're gonna be keeping those as well. And also right now we're working on the moat surrounding the castle. The difficult bit in this part was actually reconciling the edges of the moat to make it look natural. It's really tough, to be honest. Like, I feel like it's never gonna be as good as actual terraforming and terrain editing and actually excavating the terrain to have a water feature. But you know what? It's The Sims 4 and we work with what we got. So I tried my best to reconcile the edges to make it look all natural and stuff. I did choose this really bad like lining for the edges of the moat, which I actually changed my mind. I will replace it off camera, but a lot of you guys were actually very responsive, positive, like receptive towards this brown pool water that I used, so that was quite awesome. I do prefer the brown color, even though I felt like the green was also just as good. I kind of just felt like this brown pool color brought out all of the brown and warm tones in the castle, specifically the roof. So that's something that I really enjoy doing. And then we are just painting in some terrain paint, making sure that the entire ward of the castle is fully paved. In case you guys missed me mentioning it in the last part, the ward actually refers to the area enclosed by the castle walls and battlements, so that's that. I also actually work on some stables as well. Now, I did look at some reference images of actual castles in real life, and I did see some stables were built like literally outside, like on a little courtyard area. So that's what I kind of did here. I kind of just made some stables to keep horses. I'm not sure if this is necessarily good for the horses, but I do remember playing The Witcher 3 and having Roach literally sleep outside most of the time, and if he ever found himself a stable, it would be very much like this, which is pretty outdoorsy if I do say so myself. But terrain paint wise, I tried to keep it as natural as possible. You guys will also see me actually throw in this little wishing well over here. I think it's actually a fountain. But yeah, that's a really cool item that the Sims can interact with. I really love the fact that the Sims can interact with most, if not all, of the custom content items I used in this one. So that was something that I really enjoyed doing in this build as well. Oh, one more thing. I think I mentioned in the last part that the house tour video was going to be uploaded on the same date of this video. The reason why I said that is because I actually had another video planned out for tomorrow. It was a completely separate thing, but it ended up being moved to a different date indefinitely, so I think it's currently on hold. But because of that, I decided to kind of just upload the house tour video tomorrow, so please keep your eye out for that as well. I will probably be tweeting this out just to make sure to get the word out to as many people as possible. But a lot of you guys did want to have a closer look at the castle altogether, so I will make sure to showcase it in a relatively good amount of a time frame, and I will also be showcasing the medieval themed Sims that I made over using medieval custom content as well. But right now we're working on the flower garden area. Now this garden actually overlooks the royal bedrooms upstairs, which I thought was a very appropriate place to have the flower garden. This garden does have some spring flowers planted all over it. So I believe we have some bluebells and some daisies, some snapdragons and some roses and some tulips. I had to have my sim actively go out in different worlds to gather some seeds. I didn't want to spoil myself all of the spring plants, because I do have an ongoing Let's Play on The Sims 4 Seasons. It's the Simdri Valley Legacy Challenge, which if you guys haven't seen yet, please check it out, it's so much fun. But yeah, I don't want to spoil myself, so I genuinely like stayed away from the wiki. So all of the flowers here are the ones that I kind of just came across organically, or the ones that I knew were like spring growing flowers. I also just used the seed packets from buy mode. So yeah, I tried my best, but I didn't really want to spoil myself because I would like to have some actual genuine reactions in my Simdri Valley Legacy Challenge. Though I feel like I have pretty much grown all spring plants. I feel like there might be a couple more, but for the most part, I think I was able to figure out all of them, at least. I think so, I'm not sure. There's no way of knowing since I'm actively like staying away from the wiki. But yeah, that's the flower garden. I kept it really simple and organic. But right now we're actually working on placing the individual crocodiles. These crocodiles are animated. They are using a custom content item to appear. So I'm using the effect mod by Andrew Studio. I've used this in many builds before as well, but in this case I knew that I wanted to have some crocodiles, hands down. One of the things that really got me so excited to work on this build was the thought of filling the moat with actual crocodiles. So in this case we have 3 crocodiles living and inhabiting our moat, waiting for some trespassers to fall over and eat them. This suddenly took a morbid turn. But I did make a tutorial on how to use the effect player by Andrew Studio, so if you guys would like to have a more in-depth explanation on that, please check out the tutorial because I get a lot of questions on how to use it, and the reason why I made that tutorial in the first place was to refer to people who would like to have an in-depth explanation. But that's that, and right now we are actually working on the vegetable and herb garden, which is probably one of my favorite areas of this castle. And I know that a lot of you guys will enjoy this as well, because when I shared photos of this on Twitter, a lot of people really got excited about it. So it also made me really excited as well. So I tried my best to make it look very medieval-ish, if that makes any sense. So obviously it's not 100% accurate to the medieval period, but I did look at some medieval gardens and I tried my best to make it look like an authentic medieval vegetable garden. So we're gonna be planting in some herbs and some vegetables that my sim grew herself. She's actually the one that plays the herbalist slash physician in this castle. She's the one who actually grew these plants herself. There is actually a cheat to speed up the plant growth, but I still had my sim roam around the different worlds collecting plants. Like these fire leaves that we're planting right here are actually from Get to Outdoor Retreat. And yeah, I had to have my sim go all the way to Granite Falls to gather some seeds. I also got some mushrooms as well. Like I use a lot of mushrooms in this flower garden and in this vegetable garden I mean. So I'm not sure how realistic that would be, but something tells me it isn't. I would have preferred to not use the mushrooms, but we just have way too many space and I wanted this to look really like, you know, like put together and really well taken care of, so I kind of just filled it up with as many plants as I can. But yeah, we have some carrots, we have some strawberries here, we have some green beans, and we have some like a lot of different herbs as well. So that's that. I think we have some sage and maybe some parsley or basil or something like that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I tried to go for a more geometric look for the planter beds, and I also lined the planter beds with some box hedging as well, because I felt like that was really authentic to the medieval look. I wasn't able to line it all with box hedging because I wanted to have some space for the sim to actually move around to reach the plant, and for the most part they can actually reach the plant. I did manage to have them get stuck in a couple of places, but if you leave them by themselves, they'll pretty much figure it out themselves. So I really like the effect of these box hedges though. I thought that they looked really authentic and realistic, but right now we're pretty much putting in the last couple of finishing touches, and I did decide to put this kind of like galleon item, or like maybe a frigate. I don't know which one is smaller, but we'll just call this a royal barge. I just really like the idea of having it overlooking the little wharf area behind the castle. I thought that was a really neat little feature, but it looks like this speed build is actually coming up to an end. Once again, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who supported this series all throughout from the very beginning. Thank you guys so much for making this such a fun and educational series for me, and hopefully you guys enjoyed and learned a thing or two as well. The floor plans will be shown in the end of the house tour video, so keep your eye out for it. It'll be out tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for watching. You all have an awesome day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.